First of all, thank you. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Vahe, for inviting me and everyone else to for this opening of your book.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
And what do you want to talk about?
You tell me. You read the book?
I want to talk about fans, turning fans.
Oh, so you read the book both in Armenian?
I read the book both in Armenian and in English, yeah. If you remember, you'd given me the book in Armenian before a trip to New Zealand, and you said, this is the perfect book for you to read in New Zealand because it's going to take you time to read the Armenian of it. And it did, of course, because my Armenian needs brushing up on. But yeah, you know, reading it again in English, it was like I was reading the same thing, but there were differences. Volume? Yes. Volume. Okay. On us or on the PA? Hold the mic closer, yeah. This is my first time holding a mic, so. There's like this boom, that's why I'm trying to not.
There's a little feedback, Sean.
Voila.
Ah, nice.
Cool, much better. Thanks, Sean. So yeah, the English version, you know, I went through it quickly, and there are differences. You want to start with that, maybe? Just kind of talk about, because there was a rewrite aspect to it, right? It wasn't completely a translation.
Yeah, yeah. Once I started translating the book, I realized that it would have been a lot better if the translator was someone else who had more respect for the book than I did. Because it's mine, and I realized that I could change anything I want, you know. So it became almost like a rewrite. But luckily, Ara Berberian, who started the translation, I had translated it, and he started another translation. He sort of gave the book its pace, and then Leon Fermanian, who edited the whole thing, he's an amazing friend, and he did a lot of fantastic adjustments to the book. But yeah, it was almost like a rewrite, almost.
And what do you think are the major kind of, I don't know if anyone's interested, but I'm interested. What are the differences between the, where could you go with Armenian that you can't go with English?
Oh, here's the thing. Milan Kundera once said, translation is like a woman, beautiful yet unfaithful. Ugly but faithful.
But faithful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, unfaithful, but faithful.
Beautiful yet unfaithful, ugly but faithful.
Oh, I see.
So it could be both.
Yeah. Translation. That makes sense.
If you're 100% committed to translating as is, right, it might be ugly.
Right.
You know, and the best example for that would be Franz Kafka, for example. You know, Kafka has been translated forever and ever, and Kundera himself says no one picked up on the humor of Kafka.
The translation
of Kafka, because everything is so serious. Meanwhile, there was a lot of humor in Kafka, and but on that same thing, Gabriel Garcia Marquez once said, I was reading an interview with him, and he said, the English translations of my work are far better than my original work.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I tried to be somewhere between both. I mean, I tried to be faithful to the translation, but at the same time, because I realized that I could, I mean, look, between 1999 and 2013, I have grown, hopefully. So yeah, I realized that there were some changes that were inevitable.
The beginning of the book, the setting, you know, in the mid-70s in Hollywood, California, really reminded me of when we first moved to Hollywood in the mid-70s, and I was a 7-year-old kid. So it really took me back personally into that mindset of what was going on at the time, the music, the cultural variation between where we're coming from and where we're coming to. So is there a certain biographical aspect is, what part of the book is you in terms of, Vahe being in the book? Or is there? Maybe not.
There is a lot of, well, every writer, in one way or another, deals with autobiography.
Right.
And in the book, in this one, there are two major parallels. One, the fact that I grew up in Beirut. I was born and raised in Beirut, and I saw the first few years of the devastation of the civil war. And then came at a time where the whole punk movement was starting, and so on and so forth, 77. And then the other autobiographical aspect is the fact that my father was an avid book lover. He was a bibliophile, and I grew up in a household I grew up in an apartment which had one bedroom, but hundreds and hundreds of books. Hundreds. I mean, we lived within books. So the smell of the books. Every time my father brought a new book, I would have an orgasm, especially the ones that came from Soviet Armenia. I remember they had a specific smell to them. It was like catnip. I used to run away from school to read. Yeah.
The books have a huge significance in the film symbolically for me. Like when I read the book, I remember, all of the references to the books. They almost seem to be telling not a different story, but a story above and beyond the book itself. What do you think the metaphor for the books are? What do you think they represent?
I think the books in this case have two parallel significances to them. One of them is the actual book itself, which, as I said, I grew up loving books. I grew up physically. I was attached to the whole culture of the books, and so for me, the book, there is also a visual aspect to it. You can touch the book, unlike digital things that that we're used to now. You can touch the book, you can smell the book, you love a book, you sleep with the book.
Yeah.
I remember fucking sleeping with a book that I loved. I would put it under my pillow, and sometimes I read books that my father would not allow me to read.
Ooh.
So those were like they're in secret,
That's cool.
Yeah, and so on a physical level, the book represents something, and on a metaphysical level, I would say the book symbolizes everything that is culturally significant, in the sense that the written word is something that preserves culture, history, literature, and everything. And so for me, what symbolizes the Armenian culture was the book itself.
I see. Okay, so that's the symbolism for the Armenian culture that
Absolutely.
we're hanging on to, that we're organizing and keeping and adding to, and trying not to get rid of. Who's going to take over this culture?
Absolutely. Because he has these serious anxieties, because he realizes that when his father dies, he's going to end up with all these books, and he doesn't know what to do with them because no one reads them anymore. And actually, there's a whole part where he talks about, like, with his students, he says, what would you do if you end up with hundreds of books?
Right.
And everybody.
Oh yeah, they come up with different ideas.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And that's very, very autobiographical.
That part of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's still.
It's very powerful. Yeah. Like the father's kind of immersion into the books, and the character that's portrayed is very, classical in a sense. the trippy part of the whole book for me was King Ardavas's head and all the different weird kind of trips that it takes, and you know, through multiple characters in the end, and like I like that aspect of it because it's a wild card, kind of just. Has everyone here read the book, by the way? I have no idea. Or are we just talking about something no one knows? No.
There are people who have read
The book's about carnival.
The synopsis. Oh shit!
No.
The synopsis. Okay, the book is
Cliff
about.
notes.
The book is about this.
We should have started with that, bro.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The book is about this the father and son who live in Hollywood in the 80s and
70s or 80s?
70s,
Okay.
70s and early 80s. Yeah. So they have migrated from Beirut. The father used to have a bookstore in Beirut. He has closed the bookstore, but he has transported every single book that he owned in the bookstore to LA. And suddenly he realizes that everything, the books are obsolete, you know, because no one reads them. But he hangs on to them, and he's he's leaving this legacy of all these books to his son, who is in a completely different frame of mind, and he thinks that the pressure of keeping all these books is very heavy on him. However, this is only the background, because what happens is early on, at one point, a pimp is beating a prostitute in Hollywood, and the prostitute, a young girl, ends up in their house with the father and the son, and she stays there.
That's
And
it. No more.
huh?
No more. Don't say anymore.
And yeah. Hence, in the name of the Father and the Son are the Father and the Son, and the Holy Ghost is the prostitute.
There's an interesting term that you created in the book that I keep referring to. Had I known that was going to happen, I'd time it. There's an interesting definition of a word that a new word that you've created in the book that's really interesting to me. It's called flarking.
Flirting.
So can you tell us what the flark is?
So as I was writing the book, I realized that that there is no word for the act of doing something intentionally, knowing absolutely, with all certainty, that whatever you're doing is wrong. And it's gonna bite you in the ass eventually, but doing it nevertheless, you know? So there is, because erring, you know, or doing something by mistake, or doing the wrong thing, you know, all these things don't really
there is no term. I noticed that too.
describe the act of doing something intentionally, you know, to fuck up your life.
So that is called flarking.
That's
like
called
that.
flarking.
It's cool.
Yeah.
What was the word in Armenian?
What was the word in Armenian? That's the question that just came up.
Larking, actually. Larking, but
Larking.
in translation, and I owe this to Leon, because I had translated it to larking, and Leon said it would be better if it's translated to flarking.
I mean the actual word in Armenian.
There is no actual word in Armenian.
Larking.
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 I flark, you flark, he flark. Yeah, that's it. Maybe, should I read a little bit?
Please.
Just a little passage, just to give you like a a taste of oh, this is yours. And this just to give you the background of okay. I exist, yet I don't. I'm 2 months old. I'm a 2 month old fetus. It's incredibly hot and humid. The pungent brewery stench is everywhere. My mother, barely 28, wearing a light yellow summer dress and white high heels, is on her way to Dr. Vartanyan's clinic to abort me. The two sisters in the taxi, looking frailer, gaunter, and shyer than usual, are huddled together in a spot as far away from the driver as possible. Guilt-ridden and distraught, they are silently staring at pictures of Christ, the Virgin Mary, Saint Joseph, Charbel, and a dozen other saints festooning the cab's interior. The driver, a man with a very thin, sharp mustache, is merrily singing along with Abdul Wahab on the radio. We are about to cross the Hajjan Bridge when out of nowhere, an old woman in black suddenly pops up right in front of us. The driver screams, "Ya Adra," and tries to veer away to no avail. The woman's body smashes into the windshield like a black bag of bones and disappears under the car. Everyone jumps out of the car and the whole neighborhood rushes in to help or gawk. The old woman's body lies there, her head in a pool of blood. Next to her lies her dark green vinyl bazaar bag, apples and tomatoes spilling out. Her tiny eyes, lost in layers of wrinkles, open and close, but it is obvious she can't see anything. My mother, pale, trembling like a leaf, leans against the wall of the corner market, crying hysterically. The shopkeeper's wife brings her a glass of water, sits her atop a dilapidated Pepsi crate amidst a bevy of colorful propane tanks, and tries to calm her down by rubbing rose water all over her face and neck. The old woman's 14-year-old grandson runs off to call his father and comes back moments later with a tall, disheveled man with bloodshot eyes wearing a pair of shoes pressed down at the heels. A few people put the old woman in a car and rush her to the hospital. Bakhal Haigaz, the shopkeeper, hoses off the blood, lights up a cigarette, and street life returns to normal. As my distraught mother walks back all the way home, life completely sucked out of her, arm in arm with her sister, she concludes that the accident is an omen and decides to forget all about the abortion. Everything about you is backwards, my father would later say. Normally, people die in accidents. You were born because of one.
That's like the heaviest bag a dad could say. She's an aide, like that's all, you know. Wow. What year was the Armenian version first printed? Do you remember?
The Armenian version was printed in 1999.
What was the reaction to it when it came out?
It was, I think, I'm probably the only writer who had sold 600 copies before it was published. So yeah, it was, and then we ran out of copies in I don't know, in a year or so, and still the Armenian, in some countries that I've been to, people read the Xerox copies of the. I remember in Aleppo there were like tons of Xerox copies of the book. The Letters from Zata, the book before, it was published again. There was a second edition that was published in Beirut, but this one was never published, and probably because the Turkish version of the book came out a few years later, and to my surprise, it was very, very well received.
Cool.
And I mean, of all the languages, Turkish was the last language that I was expecting it to be published. And there was a lot of the publishing company thought that they would get into trouble if they used the word genocide.
Right.
So it went on for about 3 years, trying to, you know, deliberating, and finally they decided that they will do it. And,
Cool.
and yeah, I used to get, when it got published in Turkish, I used to get emails, unbelievable emails from a lot of Turks and Kurds, you know, telling me that they really appreciated the novel, and they felt, yeah, the character in the old man in the book is from Tomarza. I'm not from Tomarza,
Right.
but they thought I was, so they were like, I'm from Tomarza. And I was like, okay, good, that's good. But
Are there other languages that you're going to translate this into?
I get 2 offers, one of them to be translated into French and the other Italian.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, so hopefully. But I just remembered something. When the book came out in Armenian, I remember giving it to my father, and about 4 days later, I went there, and my father was very upset. He was really, really upset, and he said, "How can you write this, you know, about me?" It's not about you. It's a novel. He goes, but the man loves books. I said, yeah, he loves books, but it's not you. He said, everybody's going to think it's me. And then I said, are you kidding? No one's, it's a novel. No one's going to think it's a... But fucking 3 days later, he started getting calls from people saying, oh, you had 2 sons, one of them died. Poor man, you know, he was devastated. He was seriously devastated, and I felt really bad, very, very bad. So anyway, for a while, the topic never came up. And then about 3 years later, I went there. I went to his place one day, and he had the book in front of him, and he goes, "When did this come out?" Now, my father has always been the most lucid person I know. No dementia, nothing. The guy was like 100% in control of his faculties. And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I haven't seen this." I said, 3 years ago, you read it, and you were very upset. He goes, "No, I have never read this." And I realized then, selective memory loss. I swear, I had read it in psychology books about selective
It's called
memory
being a man.
loss.
That's to balance the woman joke in the beginning.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, you know, you paint, you write scripts, and do you think you want to write a script out of this? Do you think this is something that would make a good script?
I think it would make a good script. I think so.
Yeah.
I think
There's a lot of color.
Yeah, no. I think the Atom's thing, right?
Yeah.
You really loved
The
it.
response,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was touching. I think it can make a good script, but as is, it would be a period piece.
Yeah.
It would be a period piece. I think if it's done now, it would be a fantastic piece. If instead of Beirut, it would be Aleppo. Because it would be the same thing.
Right, yeah.
But it would be contemporary.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah.
It would be contemporary. So.
Yeah, it would be Aleppo, Syria. Yeah. Instead of Beirut, the character is from Aleppo. Yeah, because I seriously thought about this. Yeah.
When I get asked this question because you know you do different things, music and art, and you play the oud and you do art, you paint, obviously, you write scripts, you write books, you comedy, and you know, Renaissance man kind of guy. Where does the where does the inspiration for one type of genre of what you want to do come from? In other words, how do you know this is something you want to make into a book? how does the story come to you in a way that is so profound that you have to write it down? Sorry to fuck you up like this.
Well, I think with painting is the most immediate gratification.
Definitely.
You do it right there, on your own, sometimes with friends. But you do it, and it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
Very gratifying because you can see it right there and there, whatever you're doing. And there are no other people involved as far as decision making. The work goes through. In plays, for example, I love writing plays, but at the same time, as I'm writing, I'm always thinking about the directing. I'm always thinking about what would be the best way to stage the piece, and so on and so forth.
And it's a bigger production.
Yeah,
Like it needs financing, and it's like all this.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so many people are involved, and so
yeah.
many factors, If one of the actors fucks up,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess with movies, it's even more difficult.
Right.
With monologues now, monologues are a lot of fun to do them.
Right.
But I don't think monologues represent me. I mean, you know me more than anybody. Monologues don't represent my character as is.
Right.
I have fun with monologues.
Sure.
And honestly, sometimes when someone says, "Hey, I love your book," I get so excited that finally someone knows me other than my
As a writer.
monologues and
Yeah.
my books, because the best way to know me, I think, is through my novels. Yeah, because with novels, as you said, the idea comes in, it germinates. I think about it for days on end, sometimes for months and months, and then something fascinating happens. The idea becomes like a visa to this other life, where you enter this character, you enter this existence, wherever it is, for example, in this case, it's Hollywood in the 70s, and you become your character, and you live it, and it's such a fantastic escape, if you do it right, if you really commit yourself to it. It is an escape, because 70% of your mind at all times is there. You're talking to someone, all of a sudden you say, that's a character I can use. This is a location, this idea is...
No wonder your dad got pissed.
So, yeah. So I love writing novels. I really do.
Anything new in the works after this? Even though this is just out today.
Actually, yeah, I'm working on a new novel. And hopefully, I'm working on so many things right now. I'm hoping that nothing will stand in the way of writing this novel for a long time.
That's cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
What else should we talk about?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Are we good on time? Are we?
Christina?
You're good.
Yeah?
You're good.
Okay, maybe 3 questions?
Question.
3 questions.
Question period.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
I know.
This young lady has a question.
Okay.
Let's bring her to the front.
The front.
Wait. I know John Densmore is dying to ask me a question. John?
He's coming to the front.
Oh, wait, John, and then John.
John, where are you?
He's
Ask
right
me.
here.
Huh?
Okay, this is going to be a big flarking. Can you give a percentage of how much is autobiographical and how much is fantasy?
How much of it is autobiographical?
The percentage.
The percentage, I would say, as far as the story goes, maybe 20% is autobiographical. However, as far as the state of mind goes, emotional state, cerebral state, I would say 90%. Oh yeah, especially the flarking part. Yeah. Okay, two more questions.
I just have a question about what happened to your father's books.
What happened? They're with me, and they're with my sister, and we both love and cherish them, and we intend on keeping them forever and ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious about those books, all the books during my reading.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One last question.
Vahe,
Yeah.
do you plan on translating your other Armenian books into any other languages?
Yes, I wanted to.
Can I tag on to that? Why did you decide to translate to Turkish?
I didn't translate it. It wasn't my idea. It was Aras publication in Turkey, which does a fantastic job of introducing and presenting Armenian culture to non-Armenian speaking people. They did it, and they did a fantastic job. And as far as translating other pieces, I want to translate Zatar, letters from Zatar.
Yay!
I want to translate that.
You mean rewrite?
Oregon.
Okay, thank you so much.